Nobody's ever gonna take your place. Yeah, I think we should meet in the middle. I follow you cause you're the light of the day. I need you like you need me, it's so simple. It's so simple.
Welcome back to the Gen X Juggler podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Well, it's that time of year again. The school year is almost over, and those of us with high schoolers have most likely been on some type of quest to find the perfect formal wear for upcoming events. My daughter Eiley is a freshman, and she will not be going to prom this year. However, she is in junior ROTC, for which there is a formal end-of-year banquet. So off we went to the land of silk, sequins, and tulle to find her the perfect dress. My two oldest children are boys, and acquiring their tuxedos when they were in school was relatively simple. First of all, we rented. So basically, the nice lady at the rental store would ask a few questions, take a few measurements, and we would leave with a tux that fit great and was a lovely complement to the date's dress. It was almost too easy. But I gotta say, I would look down at that cute little kindergartner who accompanied me and her older brothers to get their formal wear and think we are going to have so much fun when she's old enough to shop for formals one day. Well, that time has finally come, and last weekend I got to live the dream. Okay, maybe dream is a strong word. There were some fun moments, but there were also moments of utter frustration on both of our parts. We found a gorgeous dress that we both loved, but they didn't have her size. Eiley fell head over heels in love with another dress, but I had to be the fun killer because that particular dress didn't really keep Victoria's secrets, if you know what I'm saying. And of course, she and I differed on how much the price tag played into our decision making. Shopping for formals with a teenage daughter can certainly create moments of push and pull, and I'm not just talking about getting her into and out of those sparkly nightmares in a 2-foot by 2-foot dressing room, which is set to no less than 80 degrees, while making every effort to maintain my pleasing personality. But I digress. For better or worse, I am certainly not as stern with my children as my parents were with me. I think that can be said of many Gen Xers. As kids, we had strict rules and expectations, and there were definitely consequences if we didn't take care of our business as expected. It's fair to say that our parents did a really good job of turning us into responsible adults. But they weren't necessarily lined up around the block to get the latest book on how to raise emotionally healthy kids, if there even was such a thing back then. So many of us vowed to do it differently, which led us to be less harsh and more sensitive with our children. We honored their efforts with participation trophies just for showing up. We gave them choices and let them know their feelings matter. While I absolutely believe my children's feelings matter, and I secretly love having a strong-willed daughter who has her own mind and will voice her own opinions, there are moments, like the ones we experienced while shopping for Eiley's dress, when it doesn't sound half bad to have the last word just because I said so. Or to have a kid who wouldn't dare question my authority for fear of the consequences. But alas, I will always allow debate and discussion and listen to my child's point of view. Because I said so will never be enough for her to blindly comply. I only have myself to blame. And maybe Oprah. Our shopping experience that day took me back to 1994 when I set out in search of the perfect prom dress with my mother. It wasn't the first formal I had shopped for, but it was definitely the most important. This one requires some backstory. Senior year started off great. The only downside was that the love of my short little life had gone to college and left me behind to attend my senior year without him. Other than that, things were just peachy. But as typically happens in high school romance, when one half of that romance is no longer in high school, that relationship eventually fizzled out. We had both held on well past the expiration date, so calling it off was for the best. Of course, I lacked this adult perspective at the time because I was a teenager and we dated for a whole year. It's amazing how long a year seems when you're young. After a few weeks and several plays of One Last Cry by Brian McKnight, the best heartbreak song ever written, I dried my eyes for the final time and was determined to fully enjoy the rest of my senior year. However, I quickly realized there was a situation I had not accounted for. Prior to the demise of my long-term relationship, I had an obvious prom date. Now I was dateless. After a moment of mild panic, I decided I was a strong, independent woman who was up for the challenge of going to prom without a date. I went to a very small school. There were no more than 25 juniors and seniors combined, so skipping the prom unnoticed was not an option. It was easier just to go. And it would be fine. My friends would let me tag along and would probably even loan out their dates for a friendly dance or two. This could be fun. And so it was decided. My solo prom going plan was in motion, and while it wasn't ideal, I was kind of looking forward to it. That is, until the moment everything changed. I was in the school library just minding my business when our sweet Swedish foreign exchange student asked if she could speak to me. It seemed important. My curiosity was piqued, so we stepped into a more secluded area of the library to chat. She informed me that she was in need of a prom date. I know what you're thinking, and no, she wasn't asking me to prom, although I honestly would have considered it. On the contrary, she asked if I would mind if she invited my newly ex-boyfriend, whom I was not planning to see at my senior prom since he was in college. I wanted to say, no, absolutely not. I will not be single at prom while the tall Swedish girl with the strikingly blue eyes dances the night away with the very reason Brian McKnight has been playing nonstop in my head for the last month. Instead, I heard myself saying, of course, he's a great choice. You guys will have fun. I'm completely fine with it. It's fine. I'm completely fine. How I avoided the lightning strike I fully deserved in that moment, I'll never know. Shortly after the awkward library conversation, the boy in question called me to make sure he wasn't ruining my prom by being there. You gotta admit, that's a very kind gesture and very considerate of him. Did I honor his kind gesture with honesty? Of course not. I yet again chose to break the ninth commandment and assure him it was no big deal. I was completely unbothered. It would be fine. I would be fine. It was all fine. Shortly after that phone call, Operation Strong Independent Woman was immediately scrapped, and Operation Find a Handsome Date and a Killer Dress commenced. First, the dress. My mother and I spent hours as I dragged her from store to store and tried on dress after dress after dress. There could be no settling. This one had to be perfect. A dress that oozed confidence with just the right amount of eat your heart out. Finally, at the end of a long, arduous day, there it was, the most elegant, understated blue strapless dress I had ever seen. It was red carpet worthy and fit like a glove. This was fate. I was sure of it. Until my mom saw the price tag. It was twice as much as she had intended to spend on my formal that day, but I couldn't let the holy grail of dresses slip through my fingers, so I begged like I'd never begged before. Please, Mom, please, I need you to buy this dress. I have to have this dress, please. If you buy it, I'll get a job and pay you back. I promise. I expected to be disappointed, but stood there stunned when I realized my begging had actually worked. I couldn't believe it. Begging rarely worked with my parents. From my perspective, I had just spewed forth silly words in desperation which had accomplished the goal and would be forgotten in a day or two. From my mom's point of view, I had just entered into a binding contract. On our way home from dress shopping, with the perfect dress securely hung in the back of our conversion van, and me feeling quite pleased with myself that I had somehow talked my mother into buying it, we pulled up to a local pizza establishment, one we frequented because my mother knew the general manager. We were both hungry after a long day of shopping. Approximately 15 minutes later, I had the perfect dress, a mediocre pizza, and a job at Little Caesars. Well played, Mom. Well played. Once the shock of my new gainful employment wore off, it was time to implement phase 2 of the operation. Although it's not as easy as one might think to procure a dream date when most evenings you come home smelling like pizza. So I hatched a plan. I called up one of my good friends who had graduated the year before and asked if he would consider escorting me to prom. He was hesitant to come back to a high school function now that he was in college, but eventually he agreed. I was so grateful. It meant a lot to me that he had chosen to do this even though he really didn't want to, as a favor to me. I was completely transparent about why I needed a date and offered to pay for his tux, my corsage, everything since he was doing this as a favor to me. But he was a true gentleman and took care of all of that himself. Thanks to him, my mission was complete. Great dress? Check. Tall, handsome date? Check, check. But I was still so nervous walking into prom that night, not knowing how I would feel. Would I be sad when I saw him there with the foreign exchange student? Would I be self-conscious to the point that I embarrassed myself? As it turns out, the dress wasn't much help, since it held no magic power over the thoughts of the girl who wore it. But having my buddy by my side, whose only motivation for being there was that he wanted me to have a great senior prom, helped immensely. Going with a good friend took all the pressure off, and we just really had a good time. We enjoyed the evening and had a lot of laughs. Knowing me, I almost definitely made a few embarrassing moves, but I didn't care a bit. The boy whom I had dreaded running into at prom even asked me for a dance. It was nice. I don't remember the song we danced to, probably something from Def Leppard or George Strait, considering how our school dances usually went. But I can tell you I didn't hear a single note of that Brian McKnight song in my head the whole time. I still have the dress, and it's still beautiful. It doesn't necessarily scream 1994. I'd say it's timeless. I had actually hoped Eiley might consider wearing it for the junior ROTC banquet, but she wanted something new. I can't blame her. And yes, we stayed the course and eventually found Eiley the perfect dress. But getting my old dress out for her to try on was fun and reminded me of the lessons I learned back in 1994. Don't sweat the small stuff, and most of it is small stuff. Good friends are worth their weight in gold. And no matter how hard I try, I will never outsmart my mama. That does it for this episode of the Gen X Juggler podcast. I hope you experienced some moments this week that take you back down memory lane, and that you can find the humor and the blessings in those moments that maybe you couldn't see at the time. I look forward to our next time together. Until then, friend, let's keep on juggling.
Yeah, I think we should meet in the middle. I follow you 'cause you're the light of the day. I need you like you need me, it's so simple. It's so simple.